Hi there. My name is Lee Kilpatrick. I'm our director of developer experience here at LinearB, and I want to get everybody here started for talking about a state of continuous merge and how this is going to help your dev team be that much better. So let's do a quick little talk about me. Who am I? Oh, I don't know if you can see everything here with me in the corner, but there we go. Um, I've been working at LinearB since June, so I've been here almost 6 months. But I've worked for a bunch of different other companies, such as Atlassian, VMware, Sencha, Nutanix. And I've been a developer, a graphic artist, a developer advocate, web developer, backend developer, database developer. So I've been around and done a lot of this. So I'm hoping that you guys understand that I'm coming from being in your shoes as well. And yeah, and in my spare time, I like to scuba dive, take a few pictures here and there, and I have a boat named Pitter Patter that I'm in beautiful Sand City, California, just north of Monterey. So let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about the history of software development. So, we've been doing software development for roughly about the last, I don't know, I think we're getting up to 70 years now, since about the 40s, back when we had punch cards. But we've always struggled to try to figure out how to organize and how to get work done. And so in the 70s, 80s, we came up with this idea of waterfall, which was very top down, very hierarchical. Here's a great big product requirements documents, and you go build this. And it takes anywhere from, you know, a 9 to 24 months, and then you do it all over again for the next version. And this is how ship software was done. And that was fine. But when you're doing, it doesn't work in the modern age of cloud and stuff. So, and we got tired of developers just being told what to do and being treated as cogs. So we came up with this idea called agile. Now we can have a probably 3 hour debate on what is agile, what is not, whether it's sprints or story points or stand-ups or whatever. But one of the big things about agile is this thought of moving left, of giving developers more power. And by giving developers more power, they have more control of their lives, and they ended up with higher quality software. But the thing with agile is it's software methodology. It's about building code. So when you get done with the software, you just toss it over and it's an ops problem, right? Says if it works for me, it's hey, someone else has got to run it, right? And then the ops guys and girls started to get a little bit, hey, what about us? How do we do this? And we came up with this thing called cloud. And the idea now that developers have to do their own operations. If you build it, you got to run it. And so we carried out with DevOps. And this started happening around 2009, 2010. And for about the last 10 years, we've really changed it up where instead of doing big cycles of QA, you write unit tests, you write testing, and you integrate yourselves. You then set up to deploy or deliver, and you're instead of doing a run book where it takes you 2 weeks to build a release, now you're releasing, sometimes many, many times a day. So the world has changed and we're releasing faster. Developers have more power, and it changes how we do it. And so those changes have had a lot of effect on us. And one of the ways that they have affected us is this thing called a pull request, because one of the things that people have done is QA is now also being put on the developers. You're expected to QA your own code, or developers are expected to QA their own code. Now, there's still some traditional QA departments out there. A lot of times it's overseas, and they're great. And if you have access to a QA department, fantastic. But even with a QA department, you want to do a code review from another developer. And the pull request is the methodology. They're also sometimes called merge requests if you're doing it. But, they're great, but they slow things down. And, one of the things, the way they slow stuff down, if you were just in the last session with Clockwise, we had talking about how so much of our time as developers is being sucked up by meetings, housekeeping, branding, planning, retros, and reviews. So, a lot of time we're only spending a few hours a day coding. And that's what I like to do. But when I was working as a developer, rather than spending all the time in meetings, but that's something that stuff has changed. And there's been a lot of tools to try to help that. Clockwise does great to help get the meetings up. Planning and retros, there's some great tools from Atlassian and from other companies. But we wanted to focus on the pull requests because we ended up doing some research. And one of the things with pull requests and things being slow is it's part of developer toil. And toil is, that's seeing pushing that boulder up the hill over and over again and just doing the same thing. Do a small change, do a pull request, wait forever, you know, and it's slowing us down. And because every company is becoming a software company, developers really drive the innovation and drive your business forward. And if you don't have a good developer and innovation pipeline, your competition's going to leave you behind. And so one of my favorite stories out there is hopefully people have heard of a little company called Domino's Pizza. They deliver stuff around the world, and they have a lot of systems. And the thing that's interesting about Domino's is they've transitioned from being a pizza company that had some software to now they actually see themselves as a technology company that delivers pizza. And it's been a whole different mindset. And if you've used any of Domino's apps or been into their stores, um, they've done some really amazing stuff. Still the pizza quality's changed, but the tech is right on. We can have debates of Domino's pizza quality. I personally like it, but others have different ideas. But Domino's has done some amazing stuff that way. So let's do a little bit of talk about pull requests. So at LinearB, if you're not familiar, hopefully you're familiar with what LinearB does. Our primary product, LinearB, sits between your Git repo and your ticket tracking system, whether it be Jira or other tools. And it connects them together and keeps an eye on what's going on with your dev team. And these numbers might be a little bit out of date, but they're big. We've done a lot of research here to find out where stuff is getting stuck. And this is where it is. Oh, wow. So I got to adjust it a little bit here. But basically, code is getting stuck in the PR. Coding, on average, we're finding coding takes, day and a half, 2 days to solve that problem, which is great. A lot of really nice tools out there that have helped that along. Um, and then we start running into pickup time. And pickup time, it's just sitting there. And this is where WorkerB is really helpful. If you had a chance to watch your Dora metrics are wrong with Zach just before us, he had a great dive into how WorkerB can really help your pickup time. And I'll touch on it a little bit more, but that's a great tool. Then we found out where stuff sits the most is in the review cycle itself. And that's where we're seeing on average 5 days. And then if you've got good CI CD pipelines, deployment can be as low as 80 minutes, depending on your tool. So this is a really big change on how things are. And if your deployments get fixed, because it used to be that releasing was always the problem. Now we fixed that. It used to be that testing and integration and QA was the problem. We fixed that with CI. So now we need to fix something here, which is the code review. So how are we doing that? So did some research and we found that PRs are sitting doing nothing for almost half their life. Half the PRs are sitting there just doing nothing. And a third of them are sitting there for more than 2/3 of their life, which is pretty crazy. But so it's just code that's done and it's ready to go, but it's stuck because someone's got to go test it, try it, work with it, do something, review it. And, that's a human process in a lot of ways, but doesn't always need to be and doesn't need to be for everything. So let's figure out maybe some better ways to do that. So let's break this down a little bit. So PRs suffer from a few things. One is, do you even know that you have a PR? Are you aware that that PR has been assigned to you or that it's there? Did you get an email or have you turned off the GitHub emails because, darn it, they just spam you every day and I'll figure it out when I do. I've done that. Sorry. I'd rather have just Slack message and WorkerB does that. Setting context. When you open up a PR, whether someone put a comment on it, whether they've labeled it, how do you know it's there? Is it just assigned to you? And now you got to go figure out the thing. I used to have a button that said, real developers don't document. It was hard to write. Should be hard to figure out, right? That doesn't help your team a whole lot. So having context there, but do you really want to have to go back through your code all the time and put in all the different context? And what if you forget something? What if you forget a dependency? providing context to your PRs is going to make them much more valuable. And the last thing that we're going to talk about is automating. And automating PRs is a really exciting thing that we're working on. And, one of the big things with automating is right now, PRs are just basically all a one size fits all. And I'll go into a little bit. And automation can help you determine how that's going to get better. So, before continuous merge, and we're calling this, making your PRs more active and more insightful, and just better. We're calling this continuous merge. So, this is our WorkerB developer, and I just finished my code. Now I got 6 days to wait for something to get reviewed. And, now I'm going to go work on something else, or am I stuck? Am I actually blocked from working on the next piece of code? We don't know. So just a little bit here, a little bit more of a demonstration of, what this kind of looks like. You code, you do your PR, you get your merge, get your integration, and then you deploy, right? That's our standard thing. Where we want to be starting to improve the process here is where this continuous merge is. And that process is what we're going to dive into. And this is what GitStream is for. And this whole idea of taking your code, the PR, and the merging and making it a better and more streamlined process for your team. So let's talk a little bit quickly about WorkerB. As I said, Zach did a much deeper dive earlier. Go back and watch his presentation. But the cool thing that WorkerB does is allows you to get context for small commits. If it's one file, less than 10 lines, it'll actually pop this right into Slack, and you can actually leave a comment, or you can leave a comment, or you can approve it right from Slack. So these little things really help. And we had WorkerB since around earlier this year, and it's being used by thousands of developers right now. And more are trying it every day. And it's free. Try it out. It will help make the awareness of your PRs improve dramatically. And some of our teams, their pickup time was, we're talking 36 hours before WorkerB. We've got it down to 7 hours in some cases. So this is a major improvement of time. So again, remember, this is that pickup, taking it down from several days to hours. This is going to help you cycle time. So other thing that we have with PRs is that lack of context. And I like to call this the Schrodinger's polar merge request problem. When you get a pull request and you don't have something like WorkerB, you just get an email that says, hey, you got a pull request. You don't know what's going on in it. You don't know if it could be big or small, or it's going to break stuff. Or it could be 10 lines, it could be 50,000 lines. We'll joke with the things. If it's a 10-line thing, I'm going to go make sure it's tabs and spaces. I'm going to make sure everything's indented right. I'm going to really, pay some attention. If it's 50,000 lines, guess what? Looks good to me. It's all good. You don't know until you open it. And WorkerB does work with MS Teams as well. And I believe it works with Bitbucket GitHub. As I said, the deeper dive is available. I've been focusing much more on GitStream. And so once you've got this review automation, we're going to actually go and take that PR, get submitted, and it goes to be part of, it gets identified, the code gets read in a little bit, and WorkerB or GitStream goes over it and labels and adds comments and puts estimated time to review and does some really different stuff to make that much better. So this is it allows you to automate your reviews. It allows you to put more context on the PR without you having to do anything as a developer. I like anything that I can automate. So if I can have my PR 2/3 written for me by GitStream, I'm a happier camper, and it gets me a faster review because it's going to bring it over. It's going to provide more context to that reviewer. So what does that look like? Well, it does not look like my video came over. Okay. Well, I'm going to make suggestion. Check out the getstream.cm page. And we can take a look at the videos there. We've got some great videos on how GitStream works. What this video does is it takes our GitStream continuous merge file, CM file. It's just YAML. If you're doing anything with DevOps, YAML is the lingua franca. of DevOps. And we provide really great documentation at docs.gitstream.cm. And it allows you to go through and set up um, how your code gets committed. If you've ever worked on an open source project and you saw a committers.md, in a lot of ways, it's a way to um, make that into code. And, we like code reviews as code so that it's going to be doing the review for you in an automated fashion. Similar to how CI and CD are automated ways of integrating and deploy, this is an automated way of getting you to merge faster. So just next slide here. So let's talk a little bit about the real world implications of this. So we've had a couple design partners take a look at this, and it's been pretty interesting. We've got three major things with GitStream that GitStream does. One is review automation, which we are just talking here about how it labels and stuff and provides contests. Reviewer automation, which is identifying the right reviewers to do your PR. So if you have an expert of that particular file, or you want a file that you want to see every time someone makes a change to it, that you should be part of that. Or if you're security or UI, there's lots of ways to automate that reviewer so that someone's not manually assigning everything. It's all there. If you touch this part of the code, this person gets put on it. That type of capabilities are right in GitStream right now. And then providing that context, that estimated time of review, how things are merge and approve, all these types of things. And GitStream has some abilities to both do auto approves. So if it's a small enough thing, it can auto approve. And if it's a safe area, like if it's just test or something, it can even auto merge. And it's all how you set it up. So there's lots of power there. So, when we had a company that adopted review automation. So this was putting context and automating, is it big? Is it small? It's doing the basic checks of white space and some different things. It's checking for deprecations. There's a lot of really powerful regexes you can do. If you go check out docs.gitstream.com, you can really see the power of it. But, as you see, it's almost cut their PR review time in half. And that type of impact is huge. If you can get your code out in half the time, you're going to do more story points. You're going to get better quality. And it's the way that we want to see. It's going to unlock the innovation in your team. So let's do a little bit of digging in here. Sorry, I couldn't show the demo in the video, but what does a CM file look like? We've got our basics here, a little bit of manifest conversion for GitStream. And this is actually the code here to set up for a double review. So we're actually adding two different pieces here. Basically, if you make more than 100 changes, make 100 lines of code changes, you need to have two reviewers. It's too big of a change to get that merged without having two sets of eyes on that beyond your own. So it's basically for set required approval, it's going to be two. And then we're actually going to add one of the reviewers right away so that this always has to come in. And that way, it's already done for you. And then the other person can be picked. It's very simple. And this looks very similar to, there's lots of different ways to do it. So how you add estimated time review. And this here is an example of a reviewer automation. So what other things can we do? Security audits. This is something that I think is really exciting for people that are doing SOX 2 compliance. If you touch any code that's modifying or adjusting personal information, you want to have a security audit to make sure that it's clean and secure. Add that reviewer automatically. Great things. One thing that we really like is a time to live. If you're working on a team and you are the expert developer, you're the most senior developer, and you know what you're going to do because you wrote the whole thing yourself. Do you really need two of your juniors to sign off on your stuff? Probably not. However, PDRs are a really great learning tool and putting a time to live. So if no one comments or adjusts or do it, it's going to get merged in after a certain time, 24, 48 hours. It allows people to do it. A lot of ways, if you're familiar with the ship, show, ask methodology, this is the idea of a show, is that it's going to be shown for so much time. And if no one says anything, it's going to go and get approved. Adding specific reviewers, different parts of the code. We've talked about that all there. And again, if you touch low level stuff, things that's going to do it. I had a really good example come up in a user group last week where, we've got a YAML file that's for our DevOps configuration. And I want someone to spend a full half hour on that review. Even if it's just 10 minutes, I want them to spend a full half hour making sure everything is perfect and making sure that right reviewer gets assigned. So you can do a lot of different tools here, and it's all how you set it up. And this is where adopting GitStream it's a team project, and you're going to need to have you're going to have to have at least one meeting here to basically set out your ideas of automations and your rules so that you agree as a team how code gets committed into this repo. It's set up on the repo level. So not every repo has to have it adopted. Um, but as you grow, you're going to want it on more and more repos because as you code, you can go read the CM file and see how you get your code in faster. And that's going to be more and more helpful as more people adopt it. And we're working, I just see a question in the chat. Can GitStream work with repos in Azure DevOps? We are looking to support Azure DevOps, Bitbucket, GitLab soon. Right now, we currently support GitHub Cloud. I believe it might work on enterprise. I haven't had a full testing of it, but this is brand new. We launched this just a little over a month ago. GitStream went live on September 22nd. So this is brand new, bleeding, dripping edge stuff, but it's changing the way people get the pull requests done. So again, remember, our code is getting stuck here. It's getting stuck in the review. It's getting stuck in the pickup time. And as LinearB, we're trying to help. We've worked really hard to build a great product to help engineering leaders identify the bottlenecks of where their code is and where stuff in the dev team is slowing down. And, one of the key things, it's great if you can identify the problem, and people are great at pointing out problems, but we thought at LinearB, you know what? We need to provide solutions, and solutions are what we want to show. And GitStream is our solution to help the review process get better. It's also WorkerB is our solution to help do our pickup, and bringing it all together is this idea of continuous merge. And so, what's this look like? We're going to be I just fixed a bunch of small things. And, we've got an automated proof. Yay. You can go start working on what's next. Other tools with WorkerB and with things that we're looking to capability. When you do submit a PR, what if you got a notification that, hey, these 3 PRs are open that you could go work on. So while you're doing a context switch, you're getting notified to switch your context to help the rest of your team out rather than going to your own extra piece of work, picking up the next ticket. Prioritizing reviews is always going to help your dev teams accelerate. So, and just to do a quick walkthrough, just a quick reiteration of what we're going through again. We are using CM to increase awareness of your PRs. We want to set context on your PRs so that your PRs have better information on them, better labeling, better estimated time to reviews. And then we want to provide automation of assigning reviewers, of moving them through the workflow process, identifying what parts of the code they're touching, and allowing that automation is really where we can increase that speed and increase that value. So, and the more folks that use this, the more rules, the more docs, the more information. We've been, every time we get a new customer on using GitStream, we learn more and see how their thing works. Oh, and I actually forgot one thing. One of the coolest things about GitStream is the cost, because I don't know about you. I'm a developer. I don't have a budget usually. And the cost for GitStream is free. You can go download it right now, gitstream.cm. You can install it in through GitHub Marketplace, load in your CM file, load in your YAML file. All the docs are right there. The instructions at docs.gitstream.com or .cm, and it's ready to go. So I think that's all I have for you guys today. And if there's, please send me questions. I'm luke.kilpatrick@linearb.io. I'm on Twitter @LKilpatrick. Happy to answer questions, happy to provide more information for you. And we can, I'm very interested to see what we can do with GitStream.